Hi, everyone. We are back with our third episode of the reJUVEnation podcast, and I'm happy to be with my Bianconeri YYZ family. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Go ahead, Ivan.
Okay, so I guess age before beauty, right?
Oh, we're starting like that, eh?
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
yes. So I'm Ivan Groh. I'm as Monica said, we're part of the YYZ Toronto Juventus club. I've been a Juventus fan for many moons. Uh, I consider myself one of the elder statesmen on Juve Twitter, but uh, my family's based of Juventini and Interisti, which is quite fun on Derby d'Italia days. So it gets a little bit hectic in my family. I get my Juventinita from my mom, who's a hardcore Juventina, and my brother's a Juventus fan as well as my sister, and a younger brother went to the dark side, and he's an Inter fan and followed in my father's footsteps, who was an Inter fan as well.
All right. I am Rocco. I've been a Juventino since probably age 7, so you can figure out that's a very, very long time ago. You did say you did call your program, your show, reJUVEnation. So I don't know why you got the two of us on. I mean, you got to look for different guests. I don't know what's going on, but I guess we'll try to use our experience and our a little bit of our knowledge that we've gathered over the time to help you maybe dissect and vivisect this most recent match, Juve Napoli. But yeah, no, I'm been a Juventino for a very long time as well. I'm a member of the Juventus YYZ uh, club and of the leadership team as well. So yeah, looking forward to talking with you today. So thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. Happy to have you guys. We will go right into it. So this is a stat from our rivalry with Napoli. So they have won the last two matches against Juventus in Serie A, and that's for the first time since 2011. So and the last they've won three actually under Walter Mazzarri. So that's our little stat to start us off here. Um, not a great not a great game. We'll get into it though, and I know Rocco DM'd yesterday saying, "Are we allowed to swear on the podcast?" and it's definitely gonna be one of those. I feel. So I like to start off with going into the post-match comments. So these comments are all straight from the Juventus website and their translation of it. So Pirlo after the game said, I don't think that they had a shot on goal, and ultimately we lost for what was a dubious penalty call. Speaking of the penalty call, Chiellini played his 400th game in Serie A and 500th game with Juventus in all competitions, and he was the culprit of the penalty given to Napoli. So my thoughts on it a little bit before we get into your guys'
Sure.
thoughts. I mean, once you go to VAR, like there's no um I guess question of intent. Like you see it and that's what it is. I mean, obviously, I don't think Chiellini intended to, harm the other player, or like there was no sign of an elbow or anything like that. However, it went to VAR and his arm was above his shoulder, and completely just, his whole hand like fit over Ramani's face.
Yeah.
So it was a clear, hit on him. So it's hard to argue. However, Ravanelli thinks otherwise. There was a quote that he said that it was that we lost to a non-existent penalty. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty hard to argue, to be honest, with that. I've seen some Juve friendly media, be it off of Juventus TV or basically the Juventus home media, and I have a hard time agreeing with them, to be completely honest. And what Ravanelli said is in line with what was said in that media out in Juve's own media outlet. Um, I think that you have to accept what the referee says and move on. And that said, the call happened fairly early in the match. You have the remainder of the game, line share of minutes available to you in order to turn that around. And I think we're going to get into what happened for that not to happen. So that's mine on the penalty.
Yeah, it's. I'm gonna go with Rocco as well. When we mentioned it right before we got on, Monica, it as soon as I saw the replay, I knew it was a penalty shot. Like it's just, it was a foul in the box. It was a disingenuous movement of Chiellini's arms. A guy of his experience and should have not done something like that and should have controlled his movements. But in the game, everything happens so quickly that it's hard to do sometimes. But to me, it was a simple call, and it was pretty clear once the ref made his way to the VAR review on the side of the field. He literally looked maybe 5-10 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
took a look at the play, and he turned around and pointed to the spot. So it was
Ivan,
that. Yeah.
Ivan, do you think it would have happened if we had it the other way around? If it was you as player being fouled with a smack in the face?
I don't know. Rocco, I'd like to think that they would have been called.
Me too.
I like to think that it would have been called. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know if people would have been crying bloody murder saying that wasn't a penalty shot. For Juve, if it was if the tides were turned. Uh, but I don't care what other people say. I'm going to be honest, and I have integrity. So that
Yeah,
was a penalty shot. Like it was, like plain and simple.
I
There's
I
no.
agree. I agree.
We'll get into Chiellini's performance as well a little bit later on. His next comment, Pirlo said, was that in the first half, we didn't move the ball around quickly enough and they were able to get back into position, but that was the only problem. In the second half, we showed more initiative and we're just missing a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I pretty much agree with what he said about the first half, especially. Um, I think actually we we missed out on opportunities to attack in the first half. So we had pretty much no opportunities in that half, and the game looked like it was a 0-0 game, um, minus the penalty. Like both teams are kind of not doing much, um, but Napoli pressed really high up in the first half, especially. They were closing down the spaces really well, and they were making it difficult for Juventus to even attempt to counterattack. Um, and I think a little bit of discussion that my brother was kind of tweeting about on Twitter was, would Bonucci or Arthur would they have helped in that situation to spur something on and get out of those little tight spaces to cycle the ball and attempt something in that sense. I know there aren't a lot of Bonucci fans, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Would he have helped in that sense?
I think that Arthur might have helped move the ball a little bit more vertically. To be completely honest, I think when he and Bentancur play together, it's a different. You see a different Bentancur. You see with Rabiot, they play a lot flatter, and instead when Arthur plays, he gets the ball very deep, and Bentancur goes a little more vertically, and they're able to play a little bit more vertical, and so as a result, we're able to open up space and get the ball to the attackers, and then spread it to the wings. So, I in terms of that, maybe we would have seen a little bit more of a difference. Bonucci, I don't know. In terms of his pass distribution, I'm sure it's better than Chiellini's, for example. So he's able to get balls more vertical and deeper. He's a much better passer in terms of long ball. But to be honest, I haven't seen too much of that this year being really well employed. Um, but I agree with you when you say that it looked like a 0-0 match. Like there really was nothing between these two teams other than the penalty, and we didn't create any chances in the first half that I can remember. So yeah, and you absolutely agree with Peter on the slow ball. Like we were very methodical and too mechanical, and weren't able to really get that additional ball movement in the first half to speed it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it looked like they were on the training ground. The intensity just
Yeah.
didn't exist. There wasn't. I think they were. I think there was a foregone conclusion that it was a gimme for them, considering who was out for
Right.
Napoli. Maybe it would have been into our favor that those Koulibaly and Manolas were in instead, right? And their players were in instead of them not being out and maybe taking Napoli lightly. Gattuso organized his team very, very good. So I just think the intensity wasn't there. They're in third gear the whole game, and just the it, the horizontal play reminded me of Sadi's Juve instead of something else. So
Mm.
it just you know we weren't vertical enough.
This was definitely like a trap game. I kind of said it on Twitter leading up to the match. At first, I was like, Ronaldo against Maximovic and Radmani. Come on, like we like this is good. Um, and then I was like, this has trap game all over it. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think Rocco agrees because of his pre-match predictions of a 1-0 loss to Juve. So
Don't take anything by that, Monica. I always predict Juve to lose or tie or something. So don't worry.
it
Go
sounds
ahead.
about right though. Lose, tie, win. We're pretty unpredictable this season.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
so I will put up your both you and Ivan's player ratings, including the coach Pirlo. So just to highlight some of the ratings, we'll start with Rocco.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to judge who was your man of the match or flop of the match
Mhm.
based on your ratings, but just to highlight a few, you gave Chiellini a 4.5 and Bernardeschi a 4, and you gave Tech and Delict 6.5.
Mhm.
So explain those a bit. I'd like to
Yeah.
talk about, I guess, your flops a little bit more.
Okay. Well, so Berardeschi, I thought was, and I don't like beating up on the guy every time, but I think he made some mistakes. Um, there was actually a chance to even like a scoring chance that he had that he missed big time. But we just saw what we usually see from what we've seen from him for a while now. Um, a lot of good in terms of effort, but not daring enough. Not daring enough, to be completely honest. So getting the ball, doing is scanning forward and eventually just passing back, right? And that's been kind of disappointing for me, for a player of that kind of caliber and for someone who has that kind of he's got great feet, and he just needs to add the confidence to match in order to advance. Um, of Chiellini, that's it's a lot of that is in the foul. To be honest, I don't think, and in the end, it cost us the game. I saw some unforced errors from him as well. So I kind of gave him a little lower than maybe he would have deserved. Maybe like what I say, 4.5, maybe a 5. You know, would have been okay too. But it just wasn't the Chiellini that we're used to. But I think he's, of course, this doesn't take away from what he's done for us over the years. He just had a bad day at the office. I also want to highlight. how disappointed I was in Rabiot. I think he was playing like this all season last season until we came back from the lockdown. So when play resumed, and then he was this logarithmic kind of performance increase. He came back now this year, and so a few so-so games, but as of the last couple of months, he's just been doing just the bare minimum, keeping it extremely simple. I don't see a through pass from him. I don't see any kind of, you know, daring type of thing, other than maybe the game against Spal in Coppa Italia, right? Other than that, I haven't seen anything from him that really impressed me. Tech was, really how many shots on net did he have to deal with, right? I mean, it was fairly usual administration, right? Coming out, grabbing the high balls and corner kicks and all that kind of stuff. But I don't remember him having been forced to make a spectacular save, which is why, like, I wouldn't give him any higher than 6.5. Sure, I mean, you want to argue that maybe he deserved a 6 instead, fine. And Delict, I thought, handled Osimhen and the rest fairly well, in terms of, and of course he and Chiellini cycled on him. I just didn't see him making as many mistakes as the rest. So that's my tops and my flops. I'll think about the man of the match in a second, after Ivan goes. How's that?
I just want to before Ivan goes.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Some people are stats people. I just want to throw these in for food for thought. So I saw a lot about Chiellini's passing yesterday. He still came out with 93% pass accuracy, one of the top, if not the top, on our squad. He had 4 successful tackles, 4 interceptions, 3 aerials, 1, and 2 blocked shots. There was a few times where, like, I remember one time specifically, Insigne beat Delict on the left side, and Chiellini was right there to pick up the slack there. I agree that Delict did well on Osimhen, but I don't think Chiellini's performance. You take that penalty away, and I think he didn't really miss a step. Sure, there's a few passes that I remember one when we were trying to push for a goal. He tried to pass it to, I think, McKennie, and it just kind of went out of bounds. And it was like, we're trying to push, and then that happens. Now we got to get the ball back. But that really is, his weakness, and it always has been.
Yeah.
Like Chiellini's weakness, passing out from the back, and I think he's actually improved in that sense over the years. So I don't know. I didn't think he had the worst game. The penalty is just, he's too experienced to do something like that. So I can't hate the low rating because, I guess at the end of the day that costed us the game. With Bernardeschi, I felt like we said, nothing really was going on in the first half amongst anyone. I think maybe Chiesa was the one guy, the most inventive, and we'll go to Ivan soon because I think he was one of the tops for Ivan. But I thought Bernardeschi did a bit better in the second half. There was a few long balls he did, or I think in the first half he's the only guy I can remember did a through ball, and this one was to Ronaldo. It was close, but the goalie came out and snatched it. And then in the second half, he did like a cross-field ball to Chiesa on the wing on the right side. I think he was getting more into it. Obviously, not starting material for Juve. I think that's the feelings there are mutual across the board from all Juventini. But I mean, I feel like Bonucci would have been scapegoated if he was on the pitch, and then Juventini just go to the next guy. And it's, I mean, why don't we talk about how bad Morata was? Well, we will, but like, I don't know, that just doesn't make sense to me. I get it. He shouldn't be playing for Juve. But try to be objective a little bit, and I'm not just saying you. I'm just talking in general. It's just always the theme on Twitter, probably just because I don't know. There's too many extremes on Twitter.
Yeah.
But that's oh, and you mentioned Rabiot, and I actually thought Rabiot was a one-man mid yesterday. I actually thought he was at least trying to penetrate with the ball, trying to start counterattacks. He's the only guy really that gallops forward with the ball. And before you logged in here, I was talking with Ivan and saying like him and Danilo like are the only guys kind of like pushing with the ball at their feet and then like kind of distributing or whatnot. But he hasn't been great. I won't disagree with that. Um, and nowhere near his form when we came back from the COVID lockdown. But I felt like he was really alone there. Bentancur, I couldn't even tell you one thing I saw from him yesterday. It felt to me he was non-existent, like at all. Couldn't even tell.
He's been yeah, he was a minimalist in the sense that he just did the absolute necessary. In Italian we say il compitino. Very little, very keep it very simple, and without really ever pushing. But he generally is that kind of a player. You don't see him daring too much in terms of like forward foleys and stuff. I mean, we've seen him last year when he was with Sarri. I mean, completely different system, right? But he was more of that, guy that was in front of the defense. When he plays with Arthur, I feel he's you see a little bit more from him. But again, like we don't have those are not the midfielders that we have where like they're creating. Our creators are on the wings, they're up top, right? So, but yeah, I think until he's around, we have that. This is what we have, and this is what we're gonna have to deal with. It's gonna be interesting to see how things develop over the course of the next month or so, with Arthur having his issues, the injury issues that he's currently dealing with.
Ivan, any thoughts on Rocco's tops and flops?
Uh, no, not really. I really think that it's a subjective view, but it's not far off. Like it's really when you're looking at yesterday's performance, you can pick up the good and the bad. I probably would have given Chiellini a 5 instead of a 4.5, but I can understand that half thing because of the penalty call, right? And the fact that he is an experienced defender and our most experienced and our captain, and that shouldn't have happened, right? And we gave him the out. We gave them the out. So,
yeah.
So Ivan, much like Rocco, your kind of tops were also Tech and Delict, but the one guy I want to talk about, I guess, is Chiesa because that was one of your tops as well, according to your ratings anyway.
Yeah.
And then you really just gave the rest of the team a 5, and I don't blame you for that.
Yeah.
So tell me about Chiesa.
Yeah, no, when I say punch and when I say intensity, he had the wheels yesterday, right? He had the desire to go in and make something happen, and he just missed one yesterday that Murray looked like he was close to covering regardless, but still he wasn't far off goal. He was looking for it, and he had the hunger, right? And you can see it. It almost felt like he was the one keeping or bringing taking the team on his back yesterday and trying to do something, right? So I definitely like the way he played yesterday, considering the team was definitely subpar or at par yesterday. So, and he provides the vertical play, right? He's a vertical player. He's not a ponder horizontal. He's at you. He will try to dribble past you.
Yes.
He'll try, he'll take on the defender. That's what I love. And he's got the speed for it, right?
On that note, I agree completely with you. To me, he looked like our most inventive player. If we were gonna get something, it was gonna either come from him directly through goal or through some sort of assist. I agree. He's our only true like winger. He wants to beat you. He wants to go at you and beat you. He doesn't want to cut back and pass the ball backwards. He wants the ball and he wants to go at you, go to the byline, fizzle in across. And you even saw like I think the criticism of him at Fiorentina came down a lot to his finishing. Um, and I think you see a more seasoned version at Juve,
Mm-hmm.
and like me and my brother, we always talk about who looks like they really actually care about this jersey that they put on, and
Mhm.
he looks like he's just like so happy to be wearing the jersey and like fighting for every ball, fighting for every point and stuff. So I agree. So I want to ask, do you think he's our most creative or inventive player within the squad in general?
I think he's the most dangerous at times because of his abilities to take on a defender. And what I mean by that, he's our most dangerous player because the only other guy that does that is Ronaldo. But Ronaldo's taking a step back with his pace, which is fine. He's 36 years old, but he still does that. There's no one else on the team that will go at a defender as much as Chiesa. Maybe you can say Quadrado does that sometimes because he still has a bit of pace, but not to the frequency that Chiesa does it. So that's he keeps the left back on any other team on their toes, and then someone he's on the right. And he's got pace, he's got skill, and he can be our dangerous player. Next to Ronaldo, he and even Morata for when Morata's on, he would be the most dangerous player on the field for
Yeah.
me.
I do like that. I do like you guys focusing on Chiesa like that because to be honest, he's been throughout ever since he's joined us. He has had that kind of signal of intent, showing that more, and you saw that yesterday as well. Really, in terms of intention, right, and effort. You just taking guys one on one, going deep, looking for the cross, trying to make danger, like trying to create dangerous situations and goal situations. Maybe he wasn't properly supported by the people who are around him. But to be honest, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised you guys think that he was you as best player. So, I mean, I could amend my ratings if you want, but yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good argument. It's the thing with a day like yesterday. There are slim pickings, and as I remember, tweeting the words, "This is excruciating to watch." It was a hard game to watch because Napoli frustrated us from going deep. We weren't able to do that. So, and to actually create a lot of dangerous situations. But that said, and going back to what Piero said earlier, Juve was able to create maybe two or three chances that if it wasn't for Meret, who is my man of the match, really. I mean, if you want to put both teams together,
Mhm.
it would have been a 1-1 game. It would have been.
So before we move on from the man of the match and player ratings and such, Ivan, you usually have a significance to each Zoom background. So I would like to know why you chose Danilo for this season.
uh, so the reason why I chose Danilos for me, this is I know we could do our hot takes, or we possibly had our hot takes, but Danilo's been our best player throughout the season. That's my take, and most consistent. He's logged in the most minutes of any player on Juventus this season. And he yesterday when he came in provided more vertical play than Cuadrado, which was quite surprising considering Cuadrado's a very vertical player, but he just wasn't on yesterday. And you
Mhm.
can see that things changed when Danilo came on, and he was the only one that could put in a bloody ball into that 6 yard box. Like I think he had two crosses and both were in the box. Both were
Mhm.
proper, like maybe off by inches, but we didn't get anybody else. Like, for the life of him, God bless Bernardeschi, couldn't put a cross of his life depended on it yesterday. Even off corner kicks, they were at chest height, and I just felt that Danilo is such an underrated player on our team. It's such an underrated acquisition. We still have, the Vedove or the widows of Cancelo on Twitter that insist on that we lost this deal, and I don't see it. Maybe I'm old and senile, right? But at this point, you know, he's such an integral part of this back line that um, Pirlo's reinvention of Danilo actually helped us out in the transfer market by not going after another CB. He converted a right back into a CB, and if someone's going to say who are the starting CBs for any game when they all are fit, people might be surprised, but I would for me it would be Delict, Chiellini, and Danilo, all all the props to Demerol, but Danilo's a more complete player right now. He really is. He's playing a more complete game,
Mhm.
right? So, he's such an underrated acquisition. I had to post it because yesterday he did play a very very good game when he came in. He did.
I think it's key that he now looks comfortable anywhere in the back line. And I think that's the key because of our struggles with fullbacks, and obviously it's a long season. Games are every three days, and having this guy play consistently solid all along the back line is key. And
Mhm.
I don't know about the Danilo Cancelo debate. I think having them both would have been would have been good. And like Cancelo, I think you need a guy like Cancelo to make the difference in Europe. Um,
Mm.
and because I personally think you need strong wing play to
Yeah.
win the Champions League. So not to say that we won or lost. It was just, I guess, a good deal that worked out for both teams.
I'm just gonna add that Danilo looks rejuvenated, and
Aha.
He does.
so
Good job.
with regards to Cancelo, I'll tell you, this is no. I just think that he wasn't the fit for Juve and the culture at Juventus, and that's huge. Like people still think that that the stile Juve is no longer doesn't exist or the culture it exists, and there's a reason why Ronaldo fits so well within the culture because he fits that steadfast, hardworking, put in your hours, you stay within those lines, put in your shift, and that's it. And I just don't. You saw some games, and you actually saw some video footage, and I think when Juve was traveled to the U.S., where he was being talked to by Paratici, and I think at that point we still had Marotta on the team as well. They were talking to him on the sidelines. His body language said it all. He wasn't happy um,
Mhm.
at that point. He just wasn't putting in the effort, and I think that that's a no-no, right? With any player that plays for Juventus, it's like
Mhm.
was Rugani a Juventus player? No, but he put in his effort. He did what he had to do, and he he played. He towed the company line, and I just don't think that Cancelo did that, and that ultimately, you know, was one of the bigger reasons why he left the team.
What were your positives or negatives?
Mhm.
Um, and what? So if you found any positives in the game, would you continue with those? Like, do you want to see that going forward? What do you want to see changed going forward? I'll just maybe to start up the conversation. We had 62.4% of the possession. So, we all saw that clearly we had the ball, and Napoli, you know, was kind of on the back end of it. We had 24 shots, but only 6 were on target. Um, and while watching the game, I kind of jotted down. It took us 70 minutes to create 2 decent chances. So the 2 decent chances were Chiesa uh, off the set piece. The shot kind of went right in the middle of Meret, but um, that was one decent chance. And then Ronaldo off the corner, but the ball was kind of behind him, so he's stretching out to kind of hit it cleanly. And then in the 73rd minute, we had our only counter-attacking chance, which was mostly Morata was going with the ball and pass it off to the left to Ronaldo. He was on a terrible angle, but forced an easy save out of Morata, and it went out for a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final, and I feel the biggest chance, was the Morata one where he fluffed. He was finally able to turn the defender and then kind of fluffed his chance. So given all of that, I guess, did this like, do you want to see us, taking, me and my brother, we say we throw the kitchen sink at them, but then we don't get anything to show for it. So we have all this possession, everyone's involved in the play, the center backs are high up, being a part of the distribution, and we struggle to score. Like, are we boring FC or sexy FC? What team are we? Meaning you guys. What team are you guys on?
Yeah, I'm more boring FC, I suppose. I mean, I wouldn't put that on a profile anywhere, but you know what? I think what the game plan yesterday was to kind of muddle through the first half, and then in the second half, turn it on, get it done, score, right? And then kind of shut off the Jets again, which is what we've seen against Inter in the midweek, what we saw against Roma before. I think Juve right now has been taking an approach to save their energy because of the January and February that we've had. So this is as we're getting towards the tail end uh, of that terrible month and a half. I think the tank is empty right now. So the approach was to do that as opposed to just go all in, right? At the end of the day, this is not like a computer simulation. These are human beings that have they have their limitations, and when you see injuries and COVID take place, then it just makes things even worse, right? It takes away from your fresh ready players. So I think it's situational. And do I like to see my team just sit back and not produce anything and just waste time on the clock, and then just make the most of one or two situations and capitalize? No, I mean, I'd rather have like your spectacular champagne football kind of team. But everything is situational. So within this specific context, I can see what the plan was. It's that's probably why I rated Chiellini so low, is because that mistake cost us the entire game plan. It just threw the entire game plan out the door. Napoli as a they're not amateurs. They're a super team. They're like a higher upper echelon team in Serie A. They were able to block space, right? So what do I want to see going forward is the ability to break down that space. And how do you do that? You do that with precision passing and speed, right? And you need to have the right ingredients in order to do that. And to be honest, with the players that we have, and when you have and I know you guys are anti Bentancur. So when you have a Bentancur who plays with that kind of attitude, like he did yesterday, same for Rabiot, same for for Bernardeschi, like you're okay, like we're going up and then we stop and we pass the ball back, right?
Yeah.
And we're exactly where we started before. It's not even about advancing. I can see passbacks are not always a bad thing. It's important to bring your team up, right? You're carrying the ball up and then you stop and you wait for your teammates to join, and you raise how far up the field you are, right, in terms of ball possession, and then you try to move it through. But at that point, when you have your team, you have 10 men behind the ball, your opponents have 10 men behind the ball, then you have to have the ability to have that special player to make it happen for you. And I just didn't see that happen. What is that a symptom of? Morata didn't have a great game. He hasn't had the greatest period. The last month and a bit. Ronaldo, the last month and a half. Like, other than a few, like a great performance against Inter because of what, 2 goals. One of them was poached. The other was a penalty kick. I haven't seen the Ronaldo of old. I think he's doing some extra work, in order to be ready for the end of the season. I hope that's what it is. So, it's this game is very symptomatic of the period that Juve is in right now. So it's hard to take away from, what I want to see or what I don't want to see. But yeah, overall, I want to see faster faster play, faster, moving the ball quickly towards the end in the final third, with precision. Sorry, I spoke too long.
No. The thing is, just in response,
Yeah.
like we are sixth in Serie A for the amount of goals that we've scored,
Right.
and fourth in Serie A for the amount of shots we take per game. So I just feel like majority of our season has been with this possession game.
Yeah.
But the numbers just like don't like we're not good enough, I feel, to be playing this way all the time, it seems, because when we switch the approach, like we ended up being, I guess, more clinical in the fewer chances, that we had. I feel like
Yep.
the team is not good enough to break teams down. If you have the ball at your feet majority of the game, it means that you're working to break the other team down. They don't have the ball, so obviously they're defending, right? And I feel like we just aren't a good enough team to constantly play that game, because we struggle to break teams down because of the lack of creativity. Like, how are you gonna break a team down? It's gonna be that one pass, that one special moment when a team is just Maximovic and Ramani, they were playing out of their minds yesterday. They were like Morata had one chance, like he didn't get to it, but I think it was Danilo who crossed the ball, and you're like, this is it. It was a perfect cross, and then out of nowhere, like Ramani gets a touch off his head. Like, I don't know, maybe we're just not good enough to play this game, and until we go through the transfer window and potentially get some like a better midfield, or maybe Ramsey comes back and kind of gives us a little bit more. Yeah, that's my little take on it.
So you're boring FC as well.
I mean, I'm results FC. So if
yeah.
I mean, like I was having a discussion on Twitter about, someone was calling Napoli's approach cowardly, because of it's not the Napoli we know, basically. Like, that was the argument. Like, Napoli is not known for that, and Gattuso has never been known to be a coach to switch tactically. So basically, it didn't count for anything. It was just a coward performance. And I was
I don't agree.
No, I disagree.
I completely disagree. You gotta break, knowing that defensively you're weak. You gotta break in the first half, knowing you're defensively weak. Why wouldn't you sit back? Why would you give Juve the opportunity to counterattack you if you're taking the game to them? When your season is, not to exaggerate or anything, the season's long, but Napoli's been struggling. So your season kind of borderline, and your job is on the line. At that point, before the win, they were tied in seventh with Atalanta,
Hmm.
um, and that brought them back up. I know everyone's kind of tight there, but this is a time where you got to get all the points you can. So it just blew my mind, uh, calling that performance cowardly, because the other argument was that they were at home, and to put on a performance like that at home to a rival, this and that, I was like, and that Juventini would never accept that if it was in reverse.
That's that's hogwash because we actually did some. We did the exact same thing to them in Napoli. I would think it was 3 years ago, and Sadi was still the coach, and this is when Napoli was it three? I think it was 3 years ago where Napoli lost their Scudetto in the hotel in Florence there,
Mm-hmm.
but we won 1-0
I think why.
in Napoli. When Allegri was behind the bench, and we shut them down. They were trying every which way to break us down. Allegri's organization, which it did, Gattuso's game plan yesterday was Allegri-esque, if I can put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
They were well structured. They took they suffered long bouts of not having possession of the ball, but they were structured so well, and Juve was so slow, as we've said, that it gave them time to organize and structure in the back. And it's I disagree with that wholeheartedly. It wasn't cowardly. To be a good coach, you have to be a good tactician, and sometimes your tactics change game by game or in game. So depending on the situation, for me, we are not boring or uh, what's the other one?
Lexi?
Sexy FC. I think we're tired and injury FC. Injured
Mm-hmm.
FC. That's my take. I think that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. J Medical has refilled its beds, even with Kadira leaving and Douglas Costa and whoever
Yeah.
else. We've managed to fill those beds and keep those people employed.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
but
that's a good point, because I saw something as well. I think it was from Adam Digby, kind of blasting Pirlo, his choices, and he said that like McKennie should have started, and I'm just like, the guy needed a break, first of all. Secondly, it was announced he had a hip issue.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he had a knock. Yeah.
So like, I don't get. Like, I think Pirlo's been rotating perfectly, um, especially amongst the center backs as well. Um, and just like, we didn't lose because McKennie wasn't in the team,
No, no,
or
that wouldn't.
because Bernardeschi was.
Yeah, no.
Like, it's not one thing, like one
Hmm.
individual.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's just because you mentioned injuries, um, and then I just see some discussion on Twitter,
yeah,
and I'm just like, who do you want them to play?
yeah.
We had, like, our bench was depleted anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's depleted. I'm not. I don't want to give excuses because Napoli could have given 101 excuses yesterday if we blew them out, and that didn't happen. And it's just they were prepared. I think we were underprepared. I think we're tired. I think because of the three competitions that we're in, they're exhausted. They're human. Also, it's the psychological aspect of what's going on in the world. Is last year, it not only impacts us, but it impacts these players. They're
Mm-hmm.
human beings as well, right? So not having people in the stands, not having the normalcy, it takes a toll on everybody, and I just think that you take it with a grain of salt. You move forward. Milan lost yesterday, which was a bonus. Roma won this morning, which kind of sucked, and they they skipped over us again. And might I add, I thought it was very brave of Mighty Mouse Insigne to take that penalty shot yesterday, considering he's missed
Yeah.
all the others against Juventus, and he buried it. So that shows that he's got, as they say in England, does he have the bubble to take it? And he did, and he converted it. No, I'm going to say this. Napoli played a very intelligent game yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
A very intelligent game. You can see that it was a very intelligent. They were intelligent tactically, and I I can wholeheartedly disagree by anybody saying that was cowardly. Cowardly,
Yeah. I agree.
100%.
I agree with you, Ivan.
Speaking of injured FC, we are also going to miss Rabiot with that second yellow card against Crotone.
Hmm.
How do we think about, or sorry, how do we feel about Fagioli? I saw something going around that he should have played against Napoli. Not quite sure I'm there. I'm there,
No.
but are we? Should we try him against Crotone? I mean, they're the last place team, definitely struggling. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we would have seen that if it was early in the season and same situation. I think Pirlo was a little more daring in terms of testing his under 23 and Primavera players, but I don't see that happening. I mean, is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. Is it probable? No. I think that we're going to see we're going to see McKennie there. Arthur is day to day, so I don't know exactly what like how soon he's due back, and if he could put in a shift, I don't know.
But
Um,
did they say
and
he's out for
Ramsey's
weeks?
so right. Like he's not. I don't think Ramsey's ready to come back either. So who like you don't have Rabiot, you don't have Arthur. You're gonna have to put what McKennie back there and Kulusevski as the third. That's still further up the field or on the wing. Like I don't like what were we gonna say, Ivan?
Isn't Arthur out 4 to 5 weeks, from what I heard, because the calcification
I've heard his conditions will be evaluated daily.
daily?
So yeah, it kind of looks like the only available guys we'll have is Bentancur, and I mean McKennie's a question mark, right? Because we
Mhm.
play midweek against Porto. Who knows what's gonna happen in that game.
Yeah.
Quadrado's already missing that game and the game against Crotone.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know.
But Jolie will be on the bench for sure and might even make an appearance. Why not, right? Because then I don't know what the schedule is like after Crotone if we have a midweek again. Because at that point it might force Piro's hand to kind of consider doing that or bringing somebody out of position to play that midfield that let's say holding midfielder that center midfield position.
So before I hear your hot takes, um, I just want to know at this point in the season, I feel like maybe it has fluctuated for people, and maybe it'll fluctuate again depending on the Lazio Inter game. But are we in for a trophyless season?
No,
Oh,
I mean, first off, technically we already won a trophy, so no. That I'll take the easy out.
uh,
I'll take the easy out. But um, do I think that we can win something between Coppa Italia, Champions League, and Scudetto? Absolutely. It's a one-shot match in the Coppa Italia final. It's going to be a very tough one. I don't know how we will get to play that game on May 19th against Atalanta. But to be honest, so that's the low-hanging fruit. The Scudetto, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, but in spite of that, we will be playing a team that, the rival or the competitor for that is going to be, to be honest, let's be honest, Inter, right? They are seeing this opportunity today to try to beat Lazio, try to vault, all the way at the top of the rankings, and they have a derby the next week, right? Where everything can happen. We don't know yet, but that said, they have only one thing to play for, only one competition to play for, and Conte is a specialist. So at the beginning of the season, I thought Inter would win the Scudetto just because Pirlo would be making mistakes, like beginner mistakes, and I hate to say it, but it looks as though I was right. But I know Ivan disagreed with me at the start, and I'll be happy to be wrong if Juve wins it again. But and Champions League, we just I don't know what's going on, and I want to see what happens in terms of Tuesday. But if anything, yesterday's decision making by Pirlo is indicative of the fact that he has Porto in mind. He has Porto in mind. So I'm looking forward to seeing that performance, and I'm expecting to see uh, um, Morata and Ronaldo in a format, in a European format. Go ahead, I.
Yeah, they. I don't. I'll give my hot take in a bit, but it's attached to this. I think I didn't want to believe Inter could do it, but considering that they're not even in the Europa League because they came last place in their Champions League group stage there, and they have only one thing. This is basically Conte's bread and butter, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And if they don't win, that's huge failure. Huge. It's massive. It's actually catastrophic, in my opinion. Um, I think Juve will win the Coppa Italia. My opinion, and I'll wait to give you what my prediction is for the UCL for my hot take.
Okay. Um, is it that we're is it that we're a tournament team, a knockout
Oh
team,
no!
like
Oh
Rocco
no!
suggested?
Oh
I guess
no!
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
So we'll get right into it.
Mm.
And whoever wants to give me their one liner hot take, to get everyone engaged online, some discussion. So whoever wants
It's
to go
really
at it.
hard to. I'll go first because I think mine is going to be a little more vanilla. I think that we should, like, a couple of years ago, was it last year, beginning of last year, we went in, we got Ramsey, we got Rabiot. Both of them were free transfers, and both of them we paid dearly, very very high salaries. I think we should get rid of both players at this point. Ramsey is gets between the lines like no other player. I think I think he's got a great pass, but I don't think he has a future with our team anymore. And his recurring injuries and inconsistent that have led to his inconsistency are, that's like the nail in the coffin. And Rabiot, really, he's not the player that, like, for that much money you can get someone like Rabiot that does just as well. So I think both of those players should go. That's my hot take at the next opportunity, which of course is going to be the summer, and try to invest in a center midfielder, one or two, that will actually make your team turn, right? And there were players last summer that we missed out on, like Thiago Alcantara, for instance, who went for Song to Bayern. So that's my hot take.
Before we go to Ivan's, just one player, one name. Who changes our team? If we can get one player, that's attainable. Like, we're not gonna go and get De Bruyne.
No,
One player, one name.
I don't have this name in me or on me right now. I'll just say it that I'll just say that I didn't even know McKennie existed until the summer. Okay, so I'm not gonna go and pretend as though, oh, McKinney, oh, I knew he was that Schalke and he played this and he did that and he's one to watch. But we all saw what he did once he did come on, and he's impressed. So by that I mean, it's not it's not my job. These people, these scouts and sporting directors, have these people all over Europe looking for great talent. There could be someone who's toiling away in Segunda somewhere in Spain, who can come and in short time, in a short period, wow the team. You know, um, We saw like Zidane was like that, for example. He was playing at Porto, right? So I'd be like, Paratici, impress me. Go. Trust me, with Rabiot, the way that he's been for most of his stay at Juventus, and Ramsey, that's not hard to do. And 7.5 million, you can buy two, you can pay two of those players with that. So you wanted a hot take, that's it.
All right, Ivan. Let's hear this Champions League hot take.
I say we make the minimum semifinal of the Champions League. I think that we have two guys up top that are built for the Champions League. We have Mr. Champions League for Juventus, Alvaro Morata,
Mhm.
who seems to shine in that on that stage for us, and then Ronaldo is Mr. Champions League for of all time. He just shows up, and I think that players like De Ligt show up in games like that. So I feel that that's where we'll shine. I feel that there's different tactics and strategy in Europe opposed to Italy. Italy is a very tactical uh, um, uh, league.
Mhm.
They literally go through lines and lines and lines and of tactics that people don't just couldn't understand. I was lucky enough to know a very famous coach in Toronto who coached Olympique Marseille and ended up coaching Toronto Italia, Ivan Markovic. And I remember as a young kid, he coached a family member of mine, and he would have like cases of tactics on cue cards, and he says, you think this is a lot? You should see Trapattoni. He knew Trapattoni. And
Mhm.
it's just that's the school of Italy. It's a very tactical league, even though they are modernizing. They're very tactical, and I don't think Europe is as tactical. Europe is more free flowing, more champagne football, unless you're playing Cholo, right? Unless you're playing Atletico Madrid, and
Mhm.
then you have him who's more pragmatic, more practical, more tactical, right? Excuse me. So my that's my hot take is at least a semifinal. I think Pirlo was brought in for that. I think the other guys were brought into that. Of course, for that is what we want. Um, and yeah, I'm hoping for it. If this year is Champions League, then I'll take it. I'm not going to count on it, but I'm going to say at least the semifinals for Juventus.
Ivan, what do you think? Sorry, Monica, if I can come in.
No, for sure.
Ivan, what do you think the game plan is for Porto? So what is Juve's game plan and what's Porto gonna do? Because I see that Porto is not gonna go in and like go gangbusters on us. I
No,
mean, Juve will start and try. I'm expecting Juve to start maybe first 10 15 minutes. Maybe Porto might, they want to make good on their home field, especially if they had fans in the stands. That would be for sure, they would have taken it to us. But I see Juve should really come out and score and be the first and try and then set the match and do what they want from that point on.
yep.
That should be the game plan. But I think Porto knows that, and Porto's going to be sitting back. So let's expect a lot of like counterattacking forays from them, and not necessarily think that we're going to go in Portugal and like dominate and take home a 2-0 win.
No,
I don't
no.
I don't see that. I don't see that. I mean, is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. But I don't see that happening. I see that this being a very difficult match. Sorry, go ahead.
It's definitely going to be. It's not going to be. It's never easy going to anybody's home pitch in Europe, regardless of who you're playing. Right? There are nights where you shine and you win. Right? Um, I'm going to. You know, I'm going to go with what you're saying that it's going to be a tough match. I think that the difference between us and them is the individual talent, and I expect that individual talent to shine, especially on a stage like Europe.
as Macho Man would say, the cream rises to the top.
Yep. That's right. That's right. So I expect guys like Morata and especially Ronaldo to make a difference in Europe. That's where the difference lies for me.
I think I agree with you guys and what Rocco said about how Porto is likely going to be trying to counter us, and they're just kind of hopefully going to, for them, absorb the pressure and then wait for their moment. And so I guess it just comes down to, like I touched on earlier, about that one moment for us to break another team down, and do we have that creativity? And I think that's what it comes down to, and I can see us not being able to break them down. And we'll see how that pans out. I hope that we make the semifinals. I think it's a bit generous, but we'll see how it goes.
I think
That
it's going
kind
to be an episode. To be honest, I think it's just going to be an episodic thing. Either like a great play by one of our players, going deep down the wing or something, cross, boom, goal, or Ronaldo, something crazy, or a penalty, something like that's going to be what is going to break it for us. What's going to break the match. And then once you've done that, then like the game just takes a different bend, right? Go ahead.
that kind of wraps up the post match. Unless Ivan, you have something else? No,
that's it.
Wraps up the post match. I guess maybe just what are your scoreline for next match against Porto? Just a scoreline.
1-1.
1-0. Good guys.
For Juve. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll see how that turns out. And I try to end each post match with a little trivia question. You guys don't have to answer. Like, I don't expect anyone on the actual film to answer. It's really meant to engage, the Twitter or YouTube subscribers and things like that. And I actually eventually wanted to make it into a leaderboard contest, but we'll try to build first and build some interaction. So this is the third trivia question of the reJUVEnation series. And the first question I did guess the goal, and the second one I did guess the player. So we'll do another guess the player. And the riddle is that I played between 1994 to 2005 with over 300 appearances. I'm a defender with coaching experience.
Can I give my answer?
Uh-oh. You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to.
I'm not supposed to?
Yeah, I have one in mind too, but we can talk about it offline. How's that?
Yeah, I know.
You can respond to, I guess the goal is to respond to the tweet.
Yeah, I will definitely respond.
We'll get the conversation going.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, I'll just repeat it once more. That I played between 1994 to 2005 with over 300 appearances, and that I'm a defender with coaching experience. All right. So that wraps up our post-match. Thank you again for Rocco and Ivan for joining me for this third episode. And I want to shout out Bianconeri YYZ because sitting here with me is one of the perks for being a member. Let me just open this here. I think that shows it.
Yep.
So this is one of my prizes for one of the raffles of being a Bianconeri YYZ member. So definitely search them up if you haven't already on Twitter. And yeah, inquire, join. We do post matches as well, hosted by Ivan and Rocco. So yeah, thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you very much for having us. I'm really appreciative and look forward to future ones.
Thanks, Monica.
No problem, guys.
Bye now.